What's up, bud? It's Rob. This is Apparel Success. And if you don't know who I am, I run a Canadian clothing brand called K-Bud that's doing well into the six figures in sales. So I help clothing brands like yours get really good results. And what I'm going to share with you in this video here, if I had known this earlier, like 3 or 4 years ago, would have saved me years of wasted time. Years of being in limbo with my clothing brand where it really wasn't growing at all. It was kind of stagnant, and where the clothing brand was just getting the same results, the same numbers every single year, year after year. And it wasn't until I realized this and got over this sticking point that my clothing brand really got to a whole new level in terms of revenue, in terms of sales, customers, building my email list, building everything. And so I want to share with you my story around this so that hopefully it can help you grow your clothing brand much faster. Apparel Success is sponsored by my buds over at Design Crowd. If designs are something that you're not that good at, I really recommend that you give them a shot. These are some of the best-selling designs on my website, and I got them all made through Design Crowd. If you're interested, head over to designcrowd.com/apparel to learn about the special offer that I have for you, or simply use the discount code APPAREL when you post a project on Design Crowd. All right, so when I started up my clothing brand, I had this philosophy of spending as little money as possible on my brand and getting the biggest returns. In my head, conceptually, it sounded like the best idea possible to spend as little money on advertising as possible, as little money as possible on the brand itself, and make the biggest returns possible. And the reason why I had that philosophy was because in my head, I viewed my clothing brand or business as just kind of expanding on its own without having to invest money into advertising and things like that. So the dream that I envisioned for my brand was that, I'd make a few posts on Instagram, I'd make a few posts on social media, and my brand would just explode. Like, people would just comment all over it, they'd be sharing it with all of their friends, and that would just continue forever, and I wouldn't have to spend much money on advertising, and basically my brand would just be like this profit machine. That's basically all that it was. What you end up realizing very quickly when you first start up your clothing brand is that there's not much interest right from the beginning. And not only is there not much interest right from the beginning and your brand actually needs some work and you're just still figuring out what your brand's all about, but the reach, like people even seeing your brand, is a challenge. Because when you're making posts on Instagram when you first start, you're barely getting in front of anybody because you have no followers. And this goes for basically any type of social media that you're using. So getting in front of people is actually way harder in practice than it sounds in your head when you first think about starting up your clothing brand. And so basically what I did is I built my clothing brand on organic for the first 3 years. I basically didn't spend any money on advertising for my clothing brand in the first 3 years. Like, the only times I'd spend money on ads were during big sales like Black Friday and maybe 1 or 2 other sales throughout the year. Every other way that I'd market my brand was through engaging with my audience on social media, liking stuff, commenting stuff, following people, DMing, running giveaways, trying to just, grow that account organically, get that attention. And you know what? I put in enough work that it kind of worked out for me. I did maybe had an $80,000 a year, $100,000 a year just through working Instagram organically and things like that. And so I'm really just trying to paint a picture for you here. I reached a point where for 2 years, my brand basically stopped growing and it was just plateaued and it was standing still. And the reason for that was because all that I was doing was working Instagram, just making posts, doing the regular thing on social media, trying to grow organically, trying to beat the algorithm, all these types of things that I was doing just with the tools that I could use with my hands where I didn't have to spend any money. And the moment that this really changed for me was through a couple of consulting calls with my mentor, who started up his clothing brand 2 or 3 years later than me and was way beyond where I was with my clothing brand. And the main reason for that, in terms of him having a bigger revenue and making more money and just building a bigger brand in general, having more customers, was literally because he wasn't stuck in this world where the only way to advertise and market your brand was through organic guerrilla marketing strategies, but because he was actually investing in his brand. he was actually spending money that he was making and putting it back into advertising and spending a lot of money on advertising so that he can get in front of a big enough audience to really see his brand through. And when I really took this lesson to heart and dropped my ego and decided that maybe I need to start investing into some ads for my clothing brand and learning all of this so that I can get in front of a bigger audience and really share what I have to share with my market, everything basically doubled overnight for me. And my revenue has skyrocketed since doing this for my own brand. And so this isn't for everybody, okay? Like what I still believe that in the first year or so, you really want to just test out the market to see what's selling and just your ability to make sales and gain some customers. You don't have to spend a ton of money on ads when you first get started. But if you've already done, say you've had like a $5,000 a month for your clothing brand and you have strangers, people that you don't know, buying your clothing just through seeing your Instagram posts and things like that. And for whatever reason, you're not spending money on ads. You're not taking what's already worked, putting it into a system and trying to scale that up. You're basically just allowing your brand to sit still, and you're going to be wasting so much time rather than growing your brand like month by month much quicker. And this is something that, even if you go back in time and you watch my older videos, I probably have a different philosophy around this back then than I do now, because I've seen just how quickly things can grow when you actually invest in something. So let's say that you've had a $5,000 a month, a $10,000 a month for your brand, okay? And you haven't spent much money on ads to make that happen. And this is happening organically. Well, there's a huge opportunity waiting for you on the other side with spending money on ads. You can keep up the organic stuff going. You don't have to shut all of that down. Keep all of that rolling at the same time and introduce ads. Because what you're doing is you're taking what's working organically. Clearly you have a product that people want. Clearly you have a brand that you've created that is resonating with people. People are identifying with, they want to rock, they think it's cool. Well, turn that into an ad, and now you have control and you can put that in front of the same type of people who are likely going to be interested and want to buy. It's not about taking here. It's not about doing anything bad. It's just about expanding your brand and getting your brand in front of more people that will actually want to buy your brand. And just some notes here. You don't have to start with a huge budget when you do this. Just to mitigate the risk a bit, you can start really low and just compare a month of you spending even $500 or $1,000 on ads and the revenue that you generate that month versus a month where you didn't spend any money on ads at all. And if you look at your total revenue compared to your expenses, just take a look at how everything is looking. The tracking through Facebook ads isn't as good these days. And so when it comes to assessing the ROAS, I obviously still take a peek and look at how the purchases are going inside of my ads. But just generally, I'm taking a look at the total revenue, total expenses, total ad spend, and I'm checking that out to see how it's going. And as long as that is in the profit zone and you're doing well there, then that's really all that you have to worry about. And, I think that the reason why this message is so important is because literally this will save you years of just trying to figure out the algorithm and trying to beat the algorithm and things like that, and just pulling your hair out, which you can still try to do, by the way. You can still continuously try and beat the algorithm and get these organic posts going for you. Why not? But on top of that, if you supplement that with a healthy amount of ad spend that's giving you a healthy amount of return, then you're just able to grow your brand so much faster. All of the customers that you capture through the ads that you're running, now you have their email, you can remarket to them, and your whole customer list, your whole customer base is growing so much faster that way. And so that was an absolutely huge unlock for my brand, and it took my brand to a whole new level this year, like a whole new level. If you got a lot of value out of this video, please hit the like button for me and let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. And if you haven't already, check out my free clothing brand marketing masterclass. All you have to do to get access is go to apparelsuccess.com/masterclass, and you can watch the whole thing for free. And if you made it to this point in the video, I want to tell you about the closed Facebook group that we have for Apparel Success. Link in the description. Follow that link, join us in the group, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.